A deal with darkness. The room was cold. The lights were bright, but nothing felt warm. The air smelled like metal and fear. Alien creatures filled the golden hall, dressed in rich clothes and heavy jewelry. They spoke in low whispers, watching the girl on the stage. Her name was Lyra. She stood tall, even though her knees wanted to fall. Her skin glowed with a soft silver light, and her long hair moved like silk in the wind. She was beautiful, but her eyes were sad. Very sad. Today, the loud voice of the auctioneer echoed, "We offer the rarest prize in the galaxy. The princess of the fallen moon, Lyra of the House of Kale." The crowd clapped, not for her beauty, but for what she was worth. Lyra was not seen as a person. She was seen as power. Whoever bought her would control her planet's last resources, and her body. Lyra's hands were tied in golden cuffs. She looked at the floor, then slowly lifted her head. Her lips moved slightly. She was praying, maybe for escape, maybe for death. "She may choose her own fate," the auctioneer said. "As per the treaty, if the girl selects a mate from another species before midnight, the sale is off." Gasps filled the hall. But the voice became sharper. "No alien male has agreed to mate with her. None dare mix their blood with hers. None, except one option remains." Silence. Then a whisper spread through the crowd. "A human." Lyra's eyes widened. Humans were feared in this part of the galaxy, not because they were strong, but because they were different. Unpredictable. Savage, some said. Dangerous, others whispered. No alien lord wanted to be near a human, let alone mate with one. A hologram screen appeared behind Lyra. A picture of a human male came into view. His arms were chained. His face was hard, full of scars. His eyes looked straight ahead, cold and angry. "Jackson," the auctioneer said. "A human soldier from the dead world of Terra. A prisoner of war. A killer." The crowd booed. Lyra stared at the image. Her heart beat faster. This was her last choice, her only way out. If she chose him, she could stop the sale. But he was human, and she didn't even know if he would accept. "You have 1 hour," the auctioneer told her. "Choose a mate or be sold." The guards pulled her away and locked her in a glass chamber. Lyra sat on the floor. Her fingers trembled. The voice of her mother echoed in her head. "Never bow, my daughter. Even in chains, keep your head high." She looked up. "Bring him," she said. Jackson walked into the room with heavy steps. His wrists were still in chains. 2 alien guards followed him closely. He looked around and then saw Lyra sitting on a chair. "What is this?" he asked. "I need you," Lyra said softly. Jackson laughed. But there was no humor. "You don't even know me." "I know enough," she replied. "They will sell me like a toy, or worse. But if I choose you as my mate, they can't do that." Jackson stared at her. He had seen many things in war. Fire, blood, lies. But this was something new. "Why would I help you?" he asked. Lyra stood and walked closer. "Because you are the only one who understands what it feels like to be used, hated, and feared." Jackson didn't move, but something in his eyes changed. Not soft, not kind, but not cold either. "Just pretend," she said. "Just for a while. After that, you can go." "I don't believe in happy endings," he said. "Neither do I," Lyra whispered. "But maybe we can at least stop the nightmare." Jackson looked down, then nodded once. "Fine." The guards looked shocked. The auctioneer was called. The crowd went wild when they heard the news. "She chooses a human," someone shouted. "Madness," yelled another. The auctioneer raised his hand. "It is done. The girl has chosen a mate. The sale is canceled." That night, Lyra sat in her new chamber beside Jackson. The walls were glass. Cameras watched them. They had to act like mates. Smile, touch, pretend. But Lyra didn't sleep. Neither did Jackson. As the lights dimmed, A quiet hiss came from the corner. Something small crawled through the shadows. Jackson jumped up, pulled a hidden knife from his boot, and threw it. A scream echoed. An alien spy fell to the ground, poison in his hand. Jackson looked at Lyra. They're already trying to kill you. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. No, she said. They're trying to kill us now. The human in chains. The walls of the palace were quiet, but inside Jackson's mind, everything was loud. He sat near the glass wall, watching the stars outside. Each star reminded him of something lost. Friends, freedom, his home. He touched the chain around his wrist, even though the guards had taken the real one off. The weight still lived in his memory. Can't sleep. Lyra's voice broke the silence. He didn't turn. Sleep is for people with peace. Lyra sat on the other side of the room. She was wearing a soft white robe, her hair tied loosely behind her head. She looked tired too, but not weak. You saved my life, she said. Why? Jackson didn't answer for a while. Then he finally spoke. Someone tried to kill you in your sleep. I don't like assassins. Is that the only reason? She asked softly. Jackson's lips curved, just a little. Maybe. Earlier that day, the whole palace had changed. Guards watched their every move. The alien lords were angry. This wasn't part of their plan. The girl was supposed to be sold, but now she had picked a human mate, a wild card no one expected. The High Council of the Galactic Order met in a secret room. We can't allow this union, said Lord Venmar, a tall alien with gold horns. But the treaty is clear, replied Lady Shira. If she chooses, the sale is void. Then we change the game, Lord Venmar said, his eyes full of hate. Make the human break the bond. Force him to leave. He won't, said another voice. It was the Shadow General, one of the Council's secret weapons. He smiled like a snake. But he will if we remind him what he truly is. A killer. A monster. Jackson and Lyra walked through the garden the next morning, hand in hand. It was part of the mate ceremony, a tradition to show love between pairs, but nothing felt real. Flowers grew tall here, their petals glowing under the alien sun. Birds with 4 wings flew above, singing soft songs. Do you miss your planet? Lyra asked. Jackson didn't answer at first. Yes, he said at last. But it's not there anymore. Earth is dead, burned during the war. Lyra looked down. I'm sorry. Don't be, he said. You didn't do it. But my people did. Jackson stopped. Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know who gave the order. I just know I was there. And then I wasn't. Lyra looked at him, surprised. What do you mean? Jackson took a deep breath. I was on a mission. When the skies burned, I was already a prisoner on an alien ship. I saw Earth vanish through a window, like smoke. Lyra touched his hand. I'm still sorry. Jackson pulled his hand away, not angrily, just distant. Let's just get through this. That night, the council began their game. Jackson was called to the palace training hall. They said it was a test of strength and honor. A tradition for new mates. Lyra was not allowed to come. Jackson entered a dark room, walls made of stone, and floors that smelled of old blood. He could hear chains, weapons clashing, voices shouting. A tall alien warrior walked forward. His body was covered in scars and metal armor. You must fight, the announcer said. If you win, you keep your mate. If you lose, you are no longer worthy. Jackson looked up. I thought we were done with chains. The announcer smiled. You are human. Chains are your story. The fight began. Jackson dodged the first blow, then blocked the second. He was fast, stronger than most believed. His body moved like a storm, sharp, wild, and full of rage. The alien struck with a double-bladed staff, but Jackson rolled, caught the edge, and used it to flip the alien onto his back. The crowd gasped. Jackson didn't kill him. He simply stood still and looked at the council. "I don't want to fight," he said, "but I will if you make me." Lord Venmar stood, face full of fury. "You think you can win her like this?" he shouted. "You are dirt." Jackson looked at him coldly. "Dirt grows flowers too." Outside the hall, Lyra waited. When Jackson came out, bruised but walking, she ran to him. For the first time, she touched his face gently, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. "They made you fight?" she asked. "Yes." "Did you win?" "I didn't die," he said. They both laughed quietly, not with joy, but with understanding. They were both broken pieces in a world that didn't care. Later that night, a secret message was slipped under their door. Jackson picked it up. The paper was old, real paper, strange for such a high-tech place. It read, "You are not safe. Not here. Not ever. If you care about her, take her and leave. Soon." Jackson stared at the note for a long time. Then he looked at Lyra, who was already sleeping. She looked peaceful in sleep, like someone who still had hope. Jackson knew then he couldn't walk away anymore. He didn't believe in love, but he believed in her. And now, that was enough. The game begins. The sun rose over the alien palace, but there was no warmth in the light, just shadows. Inside the royal garden, the flowers were trimmed, the fountains clean, and the air sweet with perfume. It looked like paradise, but something hidden moved under the beauty. Something cold. Jackson stood near a stone pillar, arms crossed. His eyes scanned every corner. Something was wrong. He could feel it. Not fear. He had lived with fear. This was different. It was a whisper in the air, a silence too deep. A game had started, but he didn't know the rules. Earlier that morning, Lyra woke with a sharp gasp. She touched her chest. Her heart was racing. A nightmare. Jackson asked from the other side of the room. She nodded. "I saw fire, and blood, and your voice calling me. But I couldn't find you." Jackson didn't laugh. He never laughed. But he did say something rare. "Dreams show us what we fear most. Mine used to be about death. Now, they're about losing someone." Lyra looked at him. "Me?" He didn't answer, but the way his eyes softened was enough. Later, they were summoned to the royal dining hall. Lord Venmar sat at the head of a long crystal table. Other alien nobles were already there. Strange food covered the table. Glowing fruits, purple meats, and golden drinks. Jackson didn't touch anything. Lyra took a sip, just enough to be polite. "Welcome," Lord Venmar said, smiling in a way that felt fake. "We wanted to honor your union." "Honor?" Jackson raised an eyebrow. "Didn't you try to kill us 2 nights ago?" The room went quiet. Venmar laughed. "Such humor. No wonder humans are unique." Jackson leaned forward. "Try anything again, and I'll stop being funny." The guard stepped closer. But Lyra put a hand on Jackson's arm. "Not here," she whispered. "Not yet." Venmar's smile grew thinner. "You are free to roam the palace today. Enjoy your bonding." But behind his words, there was a trap. The halls of the palace twisted like a maze. Jackson and Lyra walked through them, alone but watched. Small flying drones hovered near the ceiling, their red lights blinking. "We're being tested," Jackson said. "Tested how?" "They want us to slip up, show weakness, prove this bond is fake." Lyra stopped near a painting. It showed a royal couple from long ago, an alien queen and her warrior mate. They looked strong, proud, together. "What if it is fake?" she asked quietly. Jackson looked at her. Maybe it was. Not anymore. She met his eyes. There was a long pause. Then footsteps echoed. An alien priestess entered, holding a golden staff. "You must complete the mate ritual," she said. "What ritual?" Jackson asked. "The test of truth." They were taken to a dark room lit by floating blue lights. In the center, two chairs sat facing each other. Metal cuffs hung from the armrests. "Sit," the priestess said. "The ritual begins." Jackson sat first. Lyra sat across from him. The cuffs locked around their wrists. The priestess placed a glowing orb between them. "This orb will read your truth," she said. "If your bond is false, the light turns black. If it is true, white. But if you lie, it burns." Lyra's eyes widened. "Wait, burns." Jackson didn't flinch. "Ask your questions," he said. The orb blinked. "Jackson of Earth," the priestess began. "Do you care for Lyra?" He looked at her. "Yes." The orb glowed white. "Lyra of Kale," the priestess said. "Do you trust Jackson?" Lyra nodded. "Yes." The orb stayed white. But then the questions became darker. "Jackson," the voice echoed, "have you killed someone who didn't deserve it?" He hesitated. "Yes," he said finally. The orb flickered white, then dimmed. Not black, but not bright either. "Lyra," the priestess asked, "have you chosen Jackson for love, or just to save yourself?" Lyra's lips trembled. She looked at him. "At first, to survive," she admitted. "But now, I don't know. Maybe both." The orb glowed a gentle white. Jackson smiled. For the first time, truly. The priestess stepped back, ritual complete. But as they walked away, Jackson saw her whisper something into a device on her wrist. This wasn't a test. It was a warning to someone else. That night, Lyra trained with Jackson in secret. He taught her how to throw a punch, how to block, how to move without sound. "You have a good stance," he said. "You learn fast." "I've always watched," she said. "But now, I want to fight." "Why?" "Because I don't want you to protect me alone." Jackson nodded. He tossed her a small blade, then learned to cut the ropes before they tighten. Hours later, as they sat resting near the old training room, Jackson found something carved into the wall. Letters, old and rough. "Run. Trust no one. Not even her." Jackson frowned. "Do you know who wrote this?" Lyra shook her head. "No one's been down here in years." But Jackson stared at the message. Was it meant for him? Or was it a trick? A new question entered his mind. Who exactly is Lyra? He looked at her hands. Soft, but steady. He remembered the way she spoke to the priestess. Calm, clever. Was she just a scared girl? Or something more? As they walked back to their room, Jackson noticed something in the shadows. A figure, watching them. Before he could act, the figure vanished. But it dropped something. Jackson picked it up. A small coin, with a human military symbol on one side, and a message scratched into the back. "You are not alone." Jackson's heart raced. "Someone from my world is here." Lyra looked worried. "Friend." "Maybe," he said. "Maybe not." But one thing was clear now. The game had truly begun, and not all the players had shown their faces yet. Escape from the palace. The scream came before the lights went out. Jackson jumped from the bed, knife already in hand. Lyra was awake too, her eyes wide in the darkness. The palace alarms started a second later, sharp, loud, and full of panic. "What is it?" Lyra asked, heart pounding. Jackson moved to the wall, pulling her behind him. An attack, or distraction. Then came the voice over the speaker. "Contain the humans. Do not let them leave their room." Jackson looked at her. "We're not staying here." Minutes earlier, in a secret hall deep below the palace, a hooded figure moved through the shadows. He placed a small device on a power node. Red lights blinked. 1 minute to blackout. The voice in his earpiece said. "Good," the man replied. "It's time they see who's really pulling the strings." The man turned. The symbol on his glove was clear. A broken earth. A sign of human resistance. Jackson and Lyra burst through their chamber doors, catching 2 alien guards by surprise. Jackson moved fast, using the edge of his hand to knock one guard out cold. Lyra ducked and swept the legs of the second. They moved like one unit, silent and fast. "We need a map," Jackson whispered. "The servant wing," Lyra said quickly. "It has old tunnels, forgotten ones." They ran through marble halls, avoiding patrols, ducking under glowing chandeliers. Smoke began to fill the upper corridors. Something was burning. Not a distraction, Jackson realized. A full-on riot. In the great throne room, Lord Venmar stood with a shaking hand. "Who turned off the power?" he shouted. An officer replied, "Our systems were hacked. We're tracing it now. Find the humans." In the servants' wing, Lyra led Jackson through a small iron door. Inside was a tight stairway, leading down. "This place is from the old days," she said, breathless. "Before technology, before security bots." "Perfect," Jackson said. But just as they reached the bottom, they heard voices. 3 rebels, alien and human, stood inside the tunnel. Jackson raised his blade. One of them stepped forward. "You dropped this," the man said, tossing the coin Jackson found earlier. Jackson caught it. "Who are you?" "Friends," the rebel said. "Or enemies of your enemies." Lyra looked confused. "Why would humans help us?" The rebel woman beside him answered, "We're not helping you. We're helping him." She pointed at Jackson. "He doesn't know it yet, but he's part of something bigger." Jackson narrowed his eyes. "You'd better start explaining fast." As they moved through the tunnels, the rebels told the truth. "Years ago, we started building a network," the rebel man said. "Humans who survived the war, aliens who hated the new lords, people like us. Forgotten, hunted." "Why now?" Jackson asked. "Because you lit the match," the rebel said. "When you refused to bow. When Lyra chose you. That was the spark." Lyra slowed. "So this is about war?" "No," said the rebel woman. "This is about freedom." They reached an old exit, a thick steel door covered in vines. On the other side, the rebel said, is a landing bay. Hidden. Unused. Jackson grabbed the handle, but Lyra pulled back. "Wait. What is it?" She looked at the rebels. "How do we know this isn't a trap?" Jackson turned to the lead rebel. "She's right. Give me one reason to trust you." The rebel took off his hood. Jackson froze. It was a man he thought had died years ago. "Kane." The man nodded. "They told you I was gone. They lied. And now I'm here to get you out." They moved fast. Through the old bay, past broken ships, wires, rusted metal. Then, light. A sleek black ship stood in the center, shaped like a dagger. "You kept it hidden?" Jackson asked. "Been saving it for the right time," Kane replied. As they moved closer, alarms began to ring again. "They found us," Lyra shouted. Lasers cut through the air. Guards poured in from above. Jackson pushed Lyra into the ship. "Go. I'll cover." A blast knocked him down. Kane pulled him inside. "Move. We're not losing you again." The ship roared to life, engines glowing blue. As they lifted off, explosions shook the landing pad. But they made it. Barely. In orbit, the stars welcomed them. Lyra sat back, gasping. Her hand shook in Jackson's, but she didn't let go. Kane piloted the ship with ease, punching in codes. "Where are we going?" Jackson asked. "Somewhere safe," Kane replied. "A place the alien lords forgot. A moon where humans and aliens once lived together, in peace." Jackson nodded. "What's it called?" "Caldera." Lyra whispered the name. "It's just a myth." "Not anymore," Kane said. "And it's where this fight really begins." In the shadows of the palace ruins, Lord Venmar watched the skies. His hand bled from where he'd slanted into the wall. "They escaped," his advisor whispered. Venmar's eyes burned with rage. "Then bring out the hunters." "Even him?" Venmar smiled darkly. Yes. Release the void caller. It's time they remembered why humans should never rise again. The secret planet. The stars stretched endlessly across the black sky, like diamonds floating in forever. But Jackson wasn't looking at them. He stood near the viewing glass of the ship, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the small green and blue sphere coming into view. Caldera. It looked peaceful, untouched, like a dream left behind. But dreams could lie. Behind him, Lyra walked in quietly. Her hair was pulled back, and she wore a simple cloak given by the rebels. She had barely spoken since they escaped. Jackson noticed. "You're quiet," he said. "So are you." He gave a small nod. "We're both thinking the same thing." "This isn't over," she whispered. Jackson turned to her. "No, it's just beginning." As the ship landed on Caldera's surface, a wave of warm wind touched their faces. The moon was alive, with trees, clear skies, and strange birds flying overhead. But it wasn't the beauty that made them stop. It was the silence. No guards, no technology, no traps, just calm. A group of mixed people stood waiting. Humans, aliens, children, elders. They didn't cheer. They didn't smile. They watched, like people who had seen too much to trust anyone right away. Kane stepped forward. "They're family," he said, "even if they don't remember what that means." Jackson and Lyra followed him down the ramp. An old woman stepped out from the crowd. Her eyes were clouded, her back bent, but her voice was clear. "You bring the ghost back to the living," she said, looking at Jackson. "And the spark wrapped in silver flame," she added, nodding to Lyra. Jackson frowned. "You know us." "I know the signs," the woman said. "You've come here for answers. And maybe for purpose." Lyra stepped forward. "What is this place really?" "A graveyard of peace," the woman replied. "And maybe a nursery of war." They were taken to a quiet village built into the hills. The houses were made of stone and light wood. Water ran through carved streams. The people moved slowly, silently. Inside a roundhouse, Jackson and Lyra sat around a fire with Kane and the elders. "Caldera was once a shared moon," Kane began. "Long before the wars, humans and aliens lived here. No kings, no lords, no armies." "What happened?" Jackson asked. "Fear," the old woman replied. "Your kind grew strong. Too fast. The council called it unnatural. They destroyed everything," Kane added. "But a few survived. We rebuilt in secret." Lyra looked around. "But for what?" The fire crackled. "For this moment," the woman said. "You two are not just a couple hiding from danger. You are the crack in the wall." "What wall?" Jackson asked. "The one between the rulers and the rest of us," she said. "And when it breaks, the galaxy changes." Jackson looked at Lyra. She didn't smile, but she believed. For the first time, she believed. Over the next few days, they trained. Jackson worked with the young fighters, human and alien. He taught them how to fight in silence, how to use the enemy's strength against them, how to move like shadows. "Don't fight for glory," he said. "Fight for each other." Lyra trained too, not just in weapons, but in leadership. The people listened to her. Her voice was soft, but it carried strength. "I was once royalty," she told them, "but now I am just like you. Hunted, wounded, and ready to fight back." She walked among the people like a spark moving through dry grass. Fire was coming, but not all was safe. Jackson woke one night with a sharp pain behind his eyes. Not physical, a warning. He walked out into the cold moonlight. There in the sky, he saw it. A dark shape, far off, too far for the others to notice. But not him. The shape moved like a ship, but without sound, without lights. A hunter. He walked back in and found Kane. "Someone's coming." "You're sure?" Kane asked. "Yeah." "How many?" Jackson looked at the stars again. Just one. The next day, the elders confirmed his fear. The Void Caller has been released, one of them said. A shadow assassin. Part machine, part living nightmare. Lyra froze. I thought that was just a myth. Not a myth, the elder replied. A secret weapon created by the Lords. It hunts anyone who breaks the sacred codes, and it never stops until the target is dead. Jackson stood up. Then we need to leave. No, Kane said. You need to stay. What? Running won't stop this. If we run, they'll hunt us forever. But if we stand and fight, just once, we give hope to every other hidden world. Jackson looked at Lyra. She didn't hesitate. We fight, she said. They spent the night preparing. Weapons were gathered, shields activated, traps set along the forest edge. Jackson checked every defense himself. No mistakes allowed. He won't come like a soldier, he warned. He'll come like a whisper. Lyra stayed by his side. Are you afraid? She asked. Yes, he said, but not of dying. Then what? Failing you. She touched his hand. You haven't. When night fell, the village went quiet. Jackson sat on the rooftop, rifle in hand, eyes locked on the trees. For hours, nothing. Then, a shape. No footsteps, no sounds, just movement. The trees bent slightly. The wind changed. Jackson aimed, but before he could shoot, the power around the village dropped. Everything went dark. A cold breath passed through the village. Lights flickered. Children screamed. Then came the voice. Soft. Broken. Jackson of Earth, I have found you. Jackson stood. The Void Caller had arrived. And death followed behind. Betrayal at dawn. The sky was still dark, but the stars above Caldera had vanished, hidden by something unnatural. Jackson could feel it before he saw it. The air was too still, too cold. A silence that pressed against his chest, like a weight. He stood near the edge of the village wall, rifle in hand, eyes scanning the trees. Every leaf, every shadow looked like it could move. And then, something did. Not a sound, not a light, just a shift, a ripple, like space itself was being pulled apart. It's here, he whispered. Inside the village, people moved in hushed panic. Elders guided children to underground shelters. Fighters took position on rooftops and behind walls. Energy weapons hummed. Traps blinked to life. Lyra stood at the command table with Kane and the old priestess. The Void Caller doesn't fight like soldiers. The priestess said, it doesn't walk. It hunts. It becomes air, shadow, sound. How do we kill something like that? Lyra asked. Kane loaded a plasma charge into his gun. You don't. You survive it. Jackson crouched low as he watched the forest shift again. Come on, he muttered. Show yourself. Then it happened. A soft breeze, too cold, too sharp. He turned, and something struck him from behind. Hard. Jackson rolled to the side, firing blindly. The shot lit the trees for a second, revealing a tall, dark figure wrapped in torn black armor. Its face was a mask, featureless, smooth. Its body moved without sound, like it wasn't part of this world. The Void Caller. Jackson fired again. The figure vanished. Just gone. Jackson ran back toward the village, his heart pounding. Meanwhile, Lyra walked through the lower camp, checking on the villagers. A small girl tugged at her cloak. Princess, she whispered, is the bad thing coming? Lyra knelt beside her. Yes, she said honestly, but we're not alone. Will you fight it? Lyra looked up at the dark sky. Yes, she said softly, and I'll fight for you. The first attack came without warning. A scout screamed from a rooftop and vanished. Not fell, vanished. Just a flash of black light, and he was gone. Kane raised the alarm. It's inside the perimeter. Fighters turned in all directions, but the enemy wasn't in front of them. It was everywhere, and nowhere. One by one, traps were triggered, but they caught nothing. "He's toying with us," Kane said. "He wants fear." Jackson returned, out of breath. "It's watching. Testing." He looked at Kane. "You need to keep Lyra out of sight." "Already done," Kane replied. "She's in the temple hall with the priestess." But Jackson hesitated. Something felt off. Inside the temple hall, Lyra paced back and forth. The priestess stood near the old wall carvings, whispering words in a forgotten language. "What are you saying?" Lyra asked. "Protection," the priestess said. "Or perhaps a goodbye." Lyra's heart sank. "You think we'll lose?" The priestess turned slowly. "Not if your faith is strong." Suddenly, Lyra's eyes caught a strange light behind the carving. A panel. Small. Metallic. Not part of the temple. She moved closer and pressed it. The panel slid open, revealing a hidden communicator, with the symbol of the alien lords. Her breath caught. "What is this?" she whispered. "That," said the priestess behind her, "is the reason you were brought here." Lyra turned, but it was too late. The priestess pressed something on her wrist, and Lyra collapsed. Outside, explosions shook the ground. A blast hit the western wall, sending 2 fighters flying. Jackson ran toward the fire, but Kane grabbed his arm. "Wait. Look." Above them, the Void Caller stood on a rooftop, watching, but not attacking. "What is it doing?" Jackson whispered. "It's waiting," Kane said, eyes narrowing. "For something." Jackson suddenly went pale. "Lyra." He ran. He reached the temple hall and kicked open the doors. The room was empty. No Lyra. No priestess. Just the communicator on the floor, still blinking. Jackson's heart raced. "She's been taken," he muttered. He turned and found a blade at his throat, held by Kane. Jackson's eyes widened. "You?" Kane's face was calm. "I had no choice." Jackson stepped back. "You betrayed us." "Not all of us. Just you." "Why?" "Because I made a deal," Kane said. "They promised to leave this place alone, if I gave them her." Jackson clenched his fists. "You gave them Lyra." "They said she's the key," Kane said quietly, "to controlling the human gene, to starting the next war." Jackson growled. "You were like a brother." "And you were always the hero," Kane replied. "But heroes die. Survivors do what they must." Jackson struck, fast. The blade cut his arm, but he didn't care. He tackled Kane to the ground, knocking the weapon away. They fought in silence. Fists, elbows, knees. Blood hit the temple floor. But Jackson didn't stop until Kane was out cold. He stood, shaking, breathing hard. "You picked the wrong side." Jackson rushed back to the rebels. "Lyra's gone," he shouted. "The priestess took her." Kane helped. The old woman gasped. The hunter was a distraction. Jackson nodded. They were working together. "Where would they take her?" one of the rebels asked. Jackson didn't pause. "Back to the palace." Far above Caldera, in a dark ship hidden by shadows, Lyra woke up. Her hands were tied. The priestess stood nearby, no longer dressed in robes, but in armor. "You lied," Lyra whispered. "I did what was needed." The woman said, "You were never meant to escape. Your bond with the human was part of the plan. Now, it ends." Lyra's voice shook. "He'll come for me." The priestess smiled. "Let him." When Earth answers, space was quiet again. But it was a false quiet. Above the broken skies of Caldera, a massive ship floated like a sleeping monster. Inside its steel heart, Lyra sat in silence, her hands bound, her eyes tired, but not empty. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. Because deep inside her, something stronger than fear was burning. Hope. Hope that he was still coming. On the planet below, Jackson stood at the edge of the rebel camp, his face bruised, his arm wrapped in cloth. He stared at the night sky. He could see the outline of the ship now. They had her, and time was running out. Kane sat nearby, tied and bloodied. "You'll never get close to that ship," he muttered. "Their security field is too strong." Jackson didn't answer. He was already thinking, already planning. "You really think she's worth dying for?" Kane asked. Jackson turned to him. "No," he said. "She's worth living for." Inside the rebel base, engineers worked fast, fixing the old fighter ship that once carried Jackson and Lyra to Caldera. "Can we break their shields?" Jackson asked. An engineer nodded. "For 30 seconds. After that, they'll shut you down." 30 seconds is enough," Jackson said. He turned to the group of rebel fighters, some human, some alien, all tired, but ready. "You don't have to come with me," he said. One by one, they stepped forward. "You stood for us," said a young alien girl. "Now we stand with you." In space, the enemy ship prepared for final departure. The priestess stood beside Lyra, now dressed in a golden commander's uniform. "Once we reach Council space, you'll be placed in the Royal Gene Vault," she said coldly. "Your blood will create the next generation of rulers." Lyra didn't look at her. She closed her eyes and whispered one word: "Jackson." The rebel ships launched from Caldera like sparks from a fire. Jackson's fighter led them, flying low, fast, and straight toward the enemy ship. They broke through the shield gate just as it began to close. Alarms screamed inside the command center. Unauthorized crafts approaching. The priestess growled. "He came." Lyra smiled. "I told you." Jackson blasted through the docking bay, his ship spinning to a perfect stop. He jumped out before the smoke cleared, plasma gun in hand. Guards rushed in. Jackson moved like lightning. A shot to the left, a roll to the right. 2 guards down. He didn't stop. "Lyra," he shouted. From down the hall, a faint voice called back. "Jackson." He ran toward it. And there she was, still tied, surrounded by 2 elite guards. Jackson raised his gun. But the priestess stepped in front of Lyra, holding a glowing sword. "You made it," she said. "I always do," Jackson replied. "You won't leave," she promised. Jackson tossed his gun aside. "Then let's finish this." The fight was brutal. The priestess moved fast, her blade cutting the air with fire. But Jackson was faster, ducking, blocking, striking. Every move was fueled by something more than strength. Love. He took a cut across the shoulder, but didn't fall. He slammed her against the wall, grabbed her sword, and held it to her neck. "This ends now," he said. She laughed. "You still don't get it," she whispered. "You're too late." Behind her, a screen lit up. A countdown, 0137. Jackson frowned. "What is that?" "The destruction of Caldera," she said. "If I can't have the girl, no one can." Jackson's heart froze. Lyra struggled against her chains. "You have to go." "Not without you," Jackson shouted. She shook her head. "Jackson, you always said you don't believe in heroes. But maybe, just this once, be one." Jackson looked into her eyes, and everything inside him changed. He lifted the sword and cut her chains. Then he turned to the priestess, knocked her out with the hilt, and grabbed Lyra's hand. They ran together down the corridor. Alarms flared red. The countdown hit 00:43. Jackson opened a comm line. "All fighters, evacuate now. Caldera is rigged to explode." The rebels pulled back. Jackson and Lyra reached the dock. Their ship waited. But just as they stepped inside, a blast shook the hallway. Metal fell from the ceiling. Jackson pushed Lyra into the cockpit. "Go." "What about you?" He smiled. "I'll fly from the outside." He ran to the back of the ship and used the manual lift. "Take off." he shouted. She hesitated, but saw his face and trusted him. The ship rose. Jackson climbed aboard at the last second. 00:03. The enemy ship exploded behind them, flames chasing their tail. They shot into space, just before the blast reached Caldera. Silence, stars, and the cold of space. Inside the ship, Jackson lay on the floor, breathing hard. Lyra crawled to him. "You did it," she whispered. "No," he said, pulling her close. "We did." She kissed his forehead. "What now?" she asked. Jackson looked out the window. A new signal was blinking on the screen. A call from Earth Command. The message was simple. "We've heard your signal. Humanity is not finished. We are coming." Jackson smiled. "Now," he said, "we answer back." In the ruins of space, survivors across the galaxy watched the news. The Alien Lords' fleet destroyed. A human and an alien girl, together, sparked the resistance. Earth speaks again. In dark places, rulers panicked. In quiet homes, children whispered the names Jackson and Lyra like legends. And somewhere, deep in the stars, hope was reborn.